All right, welcome to the Ahead of the Count podcast. Today we're with Cort Roedig. Behind the camera, we got CJ and Andrew.
What's up? How's it going, guys? Court, good to have you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, if thanks for coming on. But if you're listening to this right now, this is episode 3. But this is the second one that we've actually recorded. Sounds kind of weird, but this is more. We're trying to get reps in with our boys, before we drop the first one, and it feels good to definitely do it with somebody that I've talked to for a really long time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So introduce yourself. Let's hear it.
Okay. I've grown up in Orlando my whole life. Me and Mitchell played high school baseball together for 3 years total, I think. Yeah, it was 3 years. Because I came to high school I came to Dr. Phillips my sophomore year, and so you're a year behind me, so 3 years. Originally born in Atlanta, Georgia, to my parents. My dad is a doctor, but when he got a job in Orlando, we moved down here, and so I basically grown up in Orlando my whole life. But yeah, what more for a bio you think?
Just walk me through, how you got to Georgia Tech,
Okay.
what you're doing there.
Yeah, so the way I got into it was, just playing travel ball growing up. I had always just stuck with it because I was like, I thought I had it in me to play college baseball in the future. And so the way I got to Georgia Tech actually, because usually travel ball, like they have all the scouts at the tournaments and stuff, and you know they're all looking to try to sign someone, and I had a few scouts come up to me, but nothing really serious. And then what happened was I decided to go to a prospect camp. I had Georgia Tech was my first choice of school because of all the engineering, but then I was also going to go to a Miami camp right after the tech camp, and I went to the tech camp. It was August before my junior year of high school, and that summer before I had gone into that camp, I was topping around 85 to 87 around there. So it was decent for my age, but it was nothing that was gonna get me a good D1 scholarship. But I went to the camp and I think I threw one inning, and that was about it. I flew up all the way there, stayed at the hotel with my dad just to throw an inning. But the field was great. Everything, it looks like a really good school to go to. And so, after the camp, the head coach, my coach now, Danny Hall, he came up to me. He's like, "So you hit 90 today?" And I'm like, I was 16 years old at the time, and I'm just kind of freaking out because I had never seen 9-0 on any radar gun, any scoreboard, a perfect game. Lake Point now in Georgia, they used to have the radar up the whole time. So yeah, but I was just kind of shocked. He's like, "All right," that was just the first part. He said, in that sentence, he said, "You hit 90, so we're gonna take you around campus to give you a tour, and we're gonna offer you." I'm like, that was my first time that someone said we're gonna give you an offer, because I had talks with other guys, nothing serious though. But yeah, I kind of just walked around with the pitching coach at the time. He showed me the campus, looked great, and I went home for about a week, thought about it, and called him up that week after and committed. I didn't go to any other camps. I didn't go to that Miami camp. I called them, told them I canceled, because it was my first choice of school, Georgia Tech, and so once I was there, I was just sold.
Yeah, that's really good. That was a good biography, Court. So for people that don't know you, kind of go into what you're studying while you're playing baseball.
Yeah, so the main reason I chose Georgia Tech was, I wanted to play really good baseball, but also have a really good engineering degree. And so my major is aerospace engineering, and it's a pretty tough major, and it's kind of crazy because Georgia Tech's one of the only schools in the country where it has one of the top engineering programs, but also one of the top baseball teams. Looking at college rankings every year for in terms of major, like Georgia Tech for aerospace is their second in the country. and right above them's MIT. And yeah, it's crazy, I know. And so but you also look at MIT, like, that would be an amazing school to go to. But at the same time, you know, in terms of my like passions, they didn't have the baseball for me. I don't personally think I could have gotten in my own, because I mean, while I am a pretty smart person, the out of state competition is probably incredibly tough. MIT is just known as one of those classic like Einstein engineering schools. Georgia Tech is almost the same way though. I would say like there's incredible smart people like all around the school, and having that opportunity to get a like top tier engineering degree, but also top tier baseball, and also like having the option to pursue either dream is something that I like to have.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Um, so you said that you're topping out at 97 right now.
That 97 is the hardest I've hit right now. Coming back into the spring, if I were to wind up right now and probably throw as hard as I could, I don't think it'd be 97. But that's just how the body works. That's how the arm works. You have to get going for a solid month and a half to 2 months before your all your muscles in your arm are loosened up and you're actually season ready.
So kind of going back to what you were saying, I thought that this was pretty interesting, but you were saying that one of your dreams was to be an engineer, your other dreams to play baseball. If you took away the fact that you threw 97, do you think that you'd be on kind of a similar path as far as school, or where do you kind of see yourself
Well,
without baseball, you know?
so you're saying if I just didn't I didn't have the skill that I did, I'd probably be more focused on the engineering. I like to balance them out evenly. I think I do a good job with time management in school and stuff, but I think more. I would probably have to focus on aerospace because I like to think of it as like two baskets, like a aerospace basket and a baseball basket, and it's putting your eggs in how many eggs you put in each basket and how that changes from year to year. I would say freshman year, I didn't know what was going to happen to my career going in, so I kind of had it 50-50. But as these years have gone on, like these past 2 years now, going into my junior year, my draft year, I've started to focus more on baseball because it's like you can do engineering at any time in your life, but baseball, you have a small window of opportunity in your life where you're actually fit to play. You're at your peak performance of your body before you turn however old and you start deteriorating. I guess it happens to everyone, but it's just like getting I understand that I have a small amount of time to do this dream, but I could do aerospace whether I'm 25 or 35, like that.
100%. You know, it says a lot to who you are as a person when, your plan B is rocket science. Plan A is baseball, plan B is rocket science. That's something that not a lot of people can say about themselves, and I think that your word definitely holds a lot of weight with a lot of people because you were so far ahead of just an average person, and you can see it when I speak with you, and when really anybody does that. You definitely got something special going on. But yeah, no, definitely go into kind of what you're thinking is going to happen in the spring, coming into
Yeah.
your junior year.
Coming to my junior year, so I mean, I'm not trying to let the draft get in my head. I've had previous teammates that I've played with who I've learned from their experiences kind of indirectly. I've seen kids in their sophomore year, my teammates, they'll have an incredible year. They'll, hit 350 or something like that. Like have incredible numbers, looking to get into the top 5 rounds, and then their junior year comes around and they're having all these scout talks, all these scout meetings in the winter, and then it's starting to get in their head. Their advisors talking to them a lot, and it's just like they let the draft get in their head. That's what we say, like if they're slumping their junior year, oh, the draft got in their head, and that's something I don't want to. I don't want to think about during my season. Right now, I've kind of just set up like short-term goals. I've just wanted to, I wanted to take, I want to carry my team as far as I can into our season, in the postseason, possibly a trip to Omaha. That's what I'm looking at right now. I'm not trying to think about, okay, let's do really well so I can go in the top 3 rounds like that. I'm just trying to think, start with the short term and then follow that, and then with the short term goals naturally comes a long term solution.
It's all about the investment for sure.
It is.
No, that's really good. Definitely good because you do see a lot of people that kind of they know what's next, and that really does just alter the way that they're playing and everything like that, and especially as a team too. I think that the best teams, and you can speak more on this if you want to, but the best teams definitely don't think about the guys that are getting drafted or anything like that.
Yeah, like I feel like the teams that actually make long runs into the postseason are the teams that don't focus on anything but helping out the team. Like they're not focused on themselves. They're not focused on like their selfishness of trying to do what's best for themselves and get drafted and make a lot of money. I mean, I think most players will focus on their team and what they can do right now, not what they can do for the future for their team, like that.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good lesson for life too. I mean, in anything, if you're kind of going in with internal motivation versus kind of taking into consideration the people around you and what they can do for you, it definitely limits the amount of success that you can kind of have.
I think being, you can't be selfishly motivated. I mean, in the end, that's a different conversation. So like, in the end, I think a lot of people, like, their actions can be drawn to some selfish, original, desire. But, I think with teams, you have to throw those away. You have to put those to the side and focus on the collective.
Definitely. You said that earlier you were talking about how the thought of this year and like what it could bring is definitely like a big thought. You don't want it to get to your head, but what are some things that you kind of do on the side to get your mind away from that? What kind of hobbies that you have? I know that we were speaking about this last night, but definitely a really interesting topic to speak about.
Yeah, so I mean, I try to have a lot of hobbies. I feel like sometimes I have too many. I do play some video games, a decent bit of time. I'm like any college age person would, especially baseball players. They, with downtime that we have in the off season and stuff, that's like what a lot of my teammates do. I would say a lot of other college players, that I know from travel ball, they do the same thing. Like everyone has their general video game playing when they're home and stuff. But also, I mean, I try to play guitar a little bit, and I try to go golfing, and I feel like trying to be good at all those is a tough thing to do, because I don't truly think I could be good at all those things, but I think it's more of not necessarily trying to master those things like I'm trying to master baseball, but trying to have little side hobbies that I can go to take my mind off of baseball if something's not going right, or just readjust my thought process before going back into baseball.
Yeah, and having multiple hobbies, does that, for you at least, um does that allow you to kind of like rekindle that excitement that baseball gives you? Because when things are new, it's really exciting you know to do it.
Yeah.
But when you've done it for years and years and years, and you take a break from it, you kind of do miss it or whatever. Do you kind of get more excited going into a baseball game after you've taken a break and you've just been doing like these little hobbies that you're not as good at?
Yeah, I would say so. I see. We've been off for, I guess, about 3 weeks to a month now of not actually being with my team and playing, which is, it is a good break, and just focusing on their hobbies, it gets me back into it, because when people take too much time in one thing, they get burnt out, and they have to go to something else. Either they go to something else and refresh their desire to do whatever they were doing, or they burn out and they completely quit it, which is something that I definitely don't want to happen to me. I feel like I have a good passion for baseball. I think it starts more with when you're growing up, because we've all seen those, like for example in baseball dads that will just push their kids to the point of them burning out, and then by the time they get to high school, they quit. I mean, and these dads had dreams of these kids playing college baseball, doing something that probably that they wanted to do, but they couldn't. So they're kind of projecting their desires on their kids, and that's not good for the kids. I feel like it will burn them out, and they won't actually achieve it without their own passion. That's the issue. They burn out because they don't have their own desire to do it. It's not them. It's their parents, or it's someone else that they're trying to impress.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like a kid when you play baseball?
Yeah, I try to. I try not to think of it as a job yet. I don't think. I think I've talked to some pro players, and when it gets to the point of it being a job, that's when they feel the burnout at ages of 30, whatever, like when they're deep into their career, and they start to think of it, okay, I'm going into work today. They're not like, oh, I'm going to play baseball today. It's when it becomes a job, that's when it would burn out. But I think I've done a good job of keeping my passion, and I don't think I've ever thought about it a as a job. I've joked about it. I've said, oh, like with a scholarship, it's like, oh, I have to play baseball to keep the scholarship. I don't, like, technically that's true. I do. If I were to quit, they could take the scholarship, so I could be stuck. But no one thinks about it like that. It's not like you're forced to do this. You're given the opportunity to, and so I think now I think now that I have a good mindset when it comes to baseball.
So we were talking about this kind of jokingly before you got here, but on a serious note, you've been to rehab twice. Or actually, not a serious note. This is the less serious note, but you've been to rehab twice.
Physical rehab.
Physical rehab.
Physical rehab.
Physical rehab.
Yes.
How do you overcome those adversities? You've been really, really successful in this, and so just talk about that, because
So, I mean, my first surgery I had, it was right before, well, it was right at the start of my senior year of high school. It was my UCL. I had a strain. It wasn't necessarily torn in any spot, but like when they opened me up and kind of went in there, they told me after, yeah, there wasn't a necessary direct tear anywhere. It was more just little micro strains all around the UCL. So they kind of classified it as like a 25% tear, which still, it bothered me, going into it. So I mean, the way I actually first felt it was, I was at Perfect Game National. I was about to go pitch, and for my 2 innings, it was just like, Perfect Game National. If for talkers that for viewers that don't know, it's like one of the biggest showcases a high schooler can go to, and it's an invite only thing. So it's a pretty big honor to go there, and if you perform really well, you get to go to the All-American game. I did not make it there, sad, but I was still honored to go to the national showcase, and so I'm going there for the biggest showcase of probably my life, and I'm about to go warm up. I'm doing my bands, I'm stretching, I feel fine, and then all of a sudden, my first toss, I'm throwing from 45 feet, and I make my first throw, I'm like, my elbow's kind of tight. And I was like, I've never felt it before. I had thrown actually maybe 2 weeks before for my travel team, and I'd felt fine. And so it was weird going into it. Just my first throw of the day being, ow, my elbow hurts, because I'd never dealt with pain, like any kind of injury, any kind of pain like that before in my career. I think just being young, that just never came across to me. So yeah, and I just kept throwing, and it kept hurting every time, and I still went out and pitched. I still threw my 2 innings, but after that, my elbow was just like, I would extend it and it would just shoot pain. It just felt really, really bad. And I tried rehabbing it for a few weeks. I still have one more tournament to play in for my travel team, and it still didn't feel good there. So I was like, all right, I need to get this checked out. And I got an MRI, and they said, yeah, you have a partial tear in your UCL. I'm like, all right, it's fine, I guess. It kind of struck me at first. And thinking back now, I'm like, oh, whatever. But when I first heard the news, I was freaked out. I'm pretty sure I cried a little bit. Just because that's just how I think any player would be like that in their first real pretty serious injury. And so the way I had my surgery was my dad was actually reading this book. It was called The Arm, and in this book, it just talks about arm care, arm workload, and just potential, just a lot of baseball, a lot of pitching, a lot of science in the arm. And there's this one part in the book where it talks about this new surgery called an internal brace, and It was done by this guy called Dr. Jeffrey Dugas. He's in Birmingham, Alabama, and he was in this book, and my dad was just reading this book just to read this book. It was kind of coincidence actually. He was just reading this book and read about this doctor, and at the same time my UCL, I have a partial tear in my UCL. It's like, okay, well, why not try this guy out from this book? And so we talked to him, some of the MRIs, and he he said, come up for a checkup, for I guess for an appointment. And so we went up there, and he recommended I have the surgery, and the surgery can only be done on a certain class of pitchers or any player. You have to be young, so it's all about the health of the tissue. So being young really helps. With old pitchers who have spent years playing and just tearing their elbow up, their tissue is not, it's weak in there. It's kind of dead. Not necessarily dead, but just not, it won't have the ability to heal as well as a young arm. Young people recover way faster than old people. It's the same idea. And so the way the surgery works is they put two anchors in my elbow at each end of the UCL, and then they line a piece of, it's collagen dip fiber tape. I don't necessarily know what collagen is, but it's something it's something that the body can, it's so the body can recognize it not as a foreign object, and so it will stay in your UCL, and the UCL actually grows into the tape because it's a porous material. So the UCL will grow into it, and overall it strengthens it. And instead of replacing the UCL like Tommy John, where they completely remove it and put the tendons and basically create a new ligament out of something from your leg or a cadaver or something, they just instead repair it. And so the recovery time is much shorter. Instead of being a year to a year and a half for Tommy John, it's about half a year to 8 months for an internal brace surgery. So yeah, that's actually, if I had Tommy John, there was no shot I was going to be able to come back for my senior year of high school and play. And so that was my biggest worry, actually, when I first heard about my UCL tearing. I was just super worried about missing my senior season, my last year of high school baseball. And so that was the first instinct thought, I think, looking like short term. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to get my scholarship pulled, I'm not going to be able to play college baseball. I was like, no, I want to play my high school season, I really, that was the main focus. So, I mean, I had my surgery. It was August 17th, 2017. So 3 years, a little over 3 years from now, coming up on four in August. So, but yeah, I mean, the whole rehab process coming back, I wasn't necessarily trying, I wasn't freaking out the whole time, I was more just like, all right, this is something that I had to get done, and now I was looking ahead to the season. I was looking like, okay, let's get back as strong as I can so I can play my final season of baseball,
Yeah, so can you look up what collagen is, by the way? How long was the rehab on your second surgery?
My second surgery, I'm just about done with my recovery, but I had my surgery in October. It was a kind of pelvis muscle repair. So the designation, I guess, the diagnosis for my injury was a sports hernia, which is kind of like a misnomer because it's not actually a hernia. Your muscles aren't actually going through the fascia. It's more of a detachment of the muscle from the pelvis. So the way the doctor described it to me is, imagine your pelvis as a baseball. It's pretty simple for me because but so your pelvis is a baseball, and attached to this baseball are all these muscles, all your groin muscles, your glute muscles, they're all attached to your pelvis. They're all attached to this baseball, which is your pelvis. And so over time with strain and just maybe possibly some improper movements, these muscles will start to pull on the skin of the baseball, and it will, I guess, so your body will compensate for the pull on this baseball, and so until the point where it can't take it anymore and it'll detach. And so that's what happened to me is I had a detachment in my adductor on my right side and somewhere in my glute, I believe. But so I went up there about October. It was in October. It was probably towards the end of October. But originally this injury started this time last year. December last year, where I was with our friend Josh. And we were at the Y, and we were doing some rear foot elevated split squats. So your foot's up on a bench, and you're squatting like a split squat. And so I'm going down into the split squat, and I feel a little pop in my right groin at the time, and then it felt terrible. I felt it, got up, stopped, I racked it up, and like, oh my god, my groin just popped, I think, And so I tried resting it for a bit, but I thought it was just a really bad groin pull, and I was working on it. I wasn't worried at first. I didn't think it was okay. This is something serious. I was like, okay, I just pulled my groin, And so I was trying to still throw, but also dealing with this groin pull, which I thought at the time, and it just never got better. I still had to deal with it in the spring as well. So it was kind of it was a pretty big issue, And so I had 4 starts this season before COVID canceled our season, which was it was a good thing for me, I think. I was talking to my pitching coach, and we kind of decided, like, this is pretty good for you, even though the whole world's gonna fall into a pandemic in the next few months. It's not the worst for you. You can rehab and you can work on it and do kind of, I guess, soft rehab instead of a very intensive surgery. I mean, because I was once I had the diagnosis, which I found out towards the end of the season before COVID, around March, I was like, okay, so I have a sports hernia, and I didn't really know what to do about it. I was Googling, and I was trying to freak myself out, in the end I probably freaked myself a little too much, but yeah, the diagnosis was like, yeah, surgery's usually the only way to repair this. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take surgery sometime. And so after the season ended, I was just focused on rehab. I didn't want to go to surgery immediately. I wanted to see if I could get these 3 to 4 months of off time that I wouldn't have normally had because of, I would have been playing baseball in this by that, this whole season. So instead, I came back here. You came home, quarantined. I worked with these soft tissue ladies, and I was able to rehab it pretty well, I think. I went back into Atlanta in the summer, and I had felt fine. I was lifting, I was doing running guns, I was throwing hard, and with no pain. So I was like, okay, this is just a little injury, and now it's healed up. And so I had felt fine going into the fall, and then I was throwing in scrimmages, inter squads. I was doing fine, and then I remember one day after I pitched, I was doing some sprints for some recovery. And this was the first time I'm looking back now, and this is like the first time I actually did sprints since like I had hurt myself. And when I was running, I felt it again, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like, is this really back again? And then yeah, so like I went to my trainer. I'm like, yeah, I feel like my hips messed up again, my groin, and said, okay, we'll get your MRI and we'll get it checked out. And so yeah, I got the MRI, and they're like, yeah, it's back. And so I had my surgery in October, going back to October. And so now currently I'm about 8 or 9 weeks out now. I feel a lot better. This was a much more minor surgery, I would say. I also, having the experience from my elbow injury, and my mindset was completely different. I wasn't really as phased, I would say. It was a much more minor surgery. The recovery time is much shorter. Talking to my coaches, they're like, yeah, just if you can if they offer the surgery, you should get it, because I'd rather be healthy in the spring rather than, the other option of just going back to rehab and trying to do some physical treatment to heal it enough to play in the spring, and but also with the potential of re-injuring it again, like I re-injured it in the fall. So I just decided, with the coaches, yeah, I should go get surgery and just be completely healthy for the spring, which is what I did. And so I wasn't really as worried, for like, the ideas of, I might miss the season, I might not be able to play, I might not get drafted, things like that. I have not really put much thought into those things, because I've already been through a much more major surgery in my past, and learning from that experience, it's just you can always work your way out of things. I think you can always there's always something you can do to get back.
Definitely, especially when you want it.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
you were talking about this was just like right around the lockdown time, right?
Yeah, right around it.
What other things were you kind of doing to kind of stay ahead of everyone, or just kind of be productive?
Yeah, quarantine was a very interesting time for everyone. I was looking to try to win an ACC tournament. We had a pretty solid team well, I guess last year now. It's 2021 now, but yeah, last year we had a pretty solid team, and we could have made a big run, but we just, with COVID getting shut down, I just instead of playing, we were actually going to play FSU. We were supposed to leave. It was a crazy day, actually. Wow. Thinking about that now, I remember I went to get lunch at our cafeteria, and like my friends were talking to me, and they're like, yeah, there's no shot we're going to FSU today. It was a Thursday. I remember it exactly. It was a Thursday. We were going to go to FSU that day. We were supposed to leave around 3 o'clock and play a weekend series against FSU. And so I'm all packed up. My stuff's at the field. I'm waiting to go. I'm getting some food before I go. And then we get to the field, and we're just sitting there, and I'm like, are we gonna pack the bus? And our coach was like, no, we have to sit here and wait. Because like this is right around when I think Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not much of a basketball guy, but that was the day of that he tested positive, and then everything was getting shut down like dominoes. It was like, NBA shut down, MLB shut down, everything. It just kept going down, and that was right around this time. And so after that, the NCAA and ACC were all like, okay, we need to get together right now and decide what we're going to do about this, you know, future pandemic coming to the world, And so we're just sitting in our locker room waiting for our coaches. Our coaches are on a call with all the other ACC coaches and the NCAA, deciding, okay, what are we going to do about this situation that's going on? And so we're sitting there, and we were there for probably about 2 hours, and this was 2 hours after we were supposed to leave, and we're just sitting there waiting. And then they come into our locker room. We're just sitting down. No one's saying a word. We don't know what's going on. This is like when it's all about to hit. And they come in and they say, we're not going to FSU. Pack up your stuff and just go home for now and wait till what we say.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny because I believe we were supposed to watch you play at Florida State.
Yeah.
And I ran into Bryce Hubbard. Shout out Bryce Hubbard, left-handed pitcher from Florida State. If you're listening to this, I hope you are. Hit me up. We want to have a podcast with you too. Anyway, going back to this. So I ran into him, and I believe, if I remember correctly, if it's the right time, they were supposed to go to like Jacksonville or something and play, and that ended up getting canceled. Like I just ran into him on campus. And I believe it was like that week, but it was funny that like all this kind of transpired because he just started his season too, and that was his freshman season. So If only we could have seen you play there. But we're definitely gonna come back for
Yeah, I think
the round one.
I think because you guys are a different division than us in the ACC, we play you guys every other year instead of every year. So
No way.
I don't think we're playing FSU this year, which is tough. I wanted to go to FSU because you know,
Could have seen the
a
homies.
lot of my friends are at FSU. I wanted to go down there. I've been to Tallahassee once, and I wanted to go back and see everyone, which is would have been fun. I was looking forward to it. I thought that day I was like, you know. I told Sam, my ex girlfriend from high school that I'm still friends with now. I was like, I'll see you tomorrow. I told her that on
Ah,
Wednesday night because I was gonna hang out with her when we got there, and it just didn't happen. It was crazy, but I remember I said I was like, I'll see you tomorrow, and it just didn't happen, And I mean, it was just kind of crazy, just how it just everything just immediately went into just crazy mode. It was just like, all right, the whole world's about to change in about a week. And but for me, it was more of like it was just like in one day. It was It was that one Thursday that just really just put the whole world into perspective. Like, wow, this is serious. It's gonna happen.
yeah. Weren't you playing like a bunch of tennis and basketball over the lockdown,
Oh
or
yeah.
what? What were you up to?
So I mean, yeah. After going home, after all this had happened, yeah. I mean, it was just I tried to work out a little bit. Mainly, the main focus was rehabbing my groin, but I was able to, being home at such a weird time. It was just like, what do we do? So couldn't go out anywhere. We couldn't really do anything. Everything was shut down, and so we just, hung out, played some basketball with high school friends. It was really fun. Playing some tennis, just trying to stay active outside while you can't go anywhere, you can't do much. I would take the paddle boards out on the lake and just it was still incredibly hot in Florida, so that was great. But yeah, I mean, just thinking about it now, that whole quarantine was more of a blur to me. It kind of just went by because I just wasn't really in that right state of mind to really process what was like. I wasn't really thinking about much what was happening all around the world as I'm just taking my paddleboard on the lake. I wasn't thinking about much, so it was just a very unplanned like unplanned summer almost. It was almost a whole summer that we were in, like a solid month to 2 months that we were truly quarantining.
Yeah, let's clear something up right here. So you were around people that were also like quarantining and everything. Obviously, everything was in lockdown, but you know, when he's saying that you're playing tennis or basketball or something like that, you're playing with close friends, basically family, who are doing the same thing, kind of practicing those
Yeah,
precautions and things like
and
that.
I mean, with young people, it's not as much of a hazard to them. So I mean, still, with that in mind, I would say I played it smart. Over quarantine, I wasn't trying to go out and just do as much as I could. I was trying to stay close because back then, I had no clue truly like what it would do to me. Now, we've kind of got a better understanding of the virus and how it affects people and how we treat it and stuff. But back in March, we had no clue what we were about to get into, and so it was just like play it as safe as you can until the scientists get an understanding of what's going on. And so yeah, I mean, just I would just see close friends, just people that like we would only see each other. It was just we would only
It was like your own
yeah
little bubble.
yeah it was our own
Yeah.
little bubble, exactly. Yeah, we just had our own little bubble, and we just did our own things. It was a fun 2 to 3 months being back here. I enjoyed the off time. It was unexpected, but I think I made the best of it.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, so at Georgia Tech, do you have a lot of like medical or friends in the medical field?
Not as much. There is a pre med route you can take, but it's more of an engineering focused school. But I mean, still, I'm pretty sure we have our own COVID testing. Like our research labs have like developed COVID testing for just the school, I guess, and I mean, I guess maybe the surrounding area, but yeah, the way like our school's done a lot with COVID, I would say. Just being just a tech school, you're really invested in all the sciences and engineering, and so like the world kind of looks to universities like that to do their part and kind of step in and like develop research, like research the virus, research testing, research methods of prevention and treatment and stuff like that. And so like I remember once in the summer we had to get tested once, and it was the swab test where they stick the swab all the way up your nose and it stings like crazy. But now I think they've kind of developed their own test where you only have to put in like a little bit of spit. It's a mouth test. And so it went from like a nose swab to a pretty large saliva test, and to now to where we get tested weekly at school, to where it's like I don't know the measurements, but it's maybe about 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters of spit, and that's about it. It's and that's all I need to get tested, and it's much easier now to get tested, I would say, than a nose swab. If I had to do a nose swab every week, I would not be about that. I would do it because we have to, but I'm glad that we have much easier methods to get tested now.
Yeah, it's really crazy how fast everything kind of.
Yeah, the whole world put their focus on the virus now. That it's the main topic of just global issues and stuff, and so we all had to put our minds together and just get through this as fast as we can, I would say.
Kind of dive into what you're studying at Georgia Tech.
Okay, so currently I'm doing aerospace engineering. It's right now I've just been getting into my major courses. These past 2 years it was more of like a core general education of physics, physics 2, calculus. I got into calculus 3. That was the last calculus I had to take. So I from these past years, I got all the math and science requirements down to allow me to take these next classes, because all of my classes now build off of the things I learned in these past 2 years, like learning about, integrals. I take loads of integrals, and just I don't even think about them now. They're more of like when you add or subtract, like that's what integrals kind of are to me. It's like you have to, like, each little problem that you're doing requires a high level of math compared to like a high school degree, and you learn all that in your first 2 years. And so I would say that this past fall was where I finally got into straight aerospace, I would say. So also with this semester being online, it was a lot tougher for me because for some of my teammates who, like, they're business majors, a lot of the stuff that the teachers teach them is based on a PowerPoint. So they just read the PowerPoint, and everything you need to know to pass the class is on that PowerPoint. And that's not the case for the classes I was taking. Mine was like they would give you the information, but it was up to you to kind of go into that and take like the main points out. Like they would give you concepts, and then they would give you the questions would be like they would test how you can apply those concepts. It not necessarily the answer to this question is this straight from the PowerPoint. So it was a lot tougher being online because I couldn't really ask questions. Like, so for one of my classes this fall, I took thermodynamics, which is it's the I don't know I forgot the word for it, but it's the weed out class of aerospace at Tech. So it's like if you fail that class, you're gonna switch majors. That's how it works. And so I was going into it being an online semester, this being the first weed out class I've really gotten into. I was kind of stressed out about it going into it because I just did not know what to expect. And it did turn out to be a pretty tough class for me because the way we worked for that class was we had to watch videos of lectures, and that was the way we learned. Is we would watch these lectures that were pre-recorded by our teacher, and they had quizzes on them. And these quizzes, like, they would just like it seemed almost like he'd say something word for word in the video, and then he would go and ask, and this question would pop up, and it looks like it's a word for word question. You put it and you put your answer down, and then you finish the video, and then it's wrong, and you're just like, what? And then the worst thing about it was they wouldn't give you the right answer, so you just be like, all right, I got a 50 on this quiz, and just it's like, all right, I can't go back. I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know what the right answer was. Whatever, and that was really tough because you couldn't ask questions that you could if you were in a normal class. It's like, okay, I originally thought it was this, and I still think it's this, but I know it's not right. And so it was a much tougher way to learn in this weird fall that we had. And so, I mean, that was one of the main classes I was really worried about. I mean, and coming to the midterm, my first midterm I did pretty well. My second one I got a D on it, so I was a little worried. I was sporting like a 70 in the class, so I was just on the border of just failing this class. And so I tried to pick it up in the end of my semester, and I did finish with a B, which I was really happy about. But I truly I don't want to say I don't know how I did it, but it was I was very shocked, I guess, to get a B. I was shooting for a C. I remember I was typing in my grades on this grade calculator, trying to figure out, all right, what do I need to get a 70, just a 70 in this class. And it was like, all right, you need an 85 to get a 70. And so it was just like, all right, I have to really really put my mind to this now and get it done. And I think the biggest thing with like taking classes with baseball as well is like time management. You have to do well. You have to do a lot to manage your time, and I think I manage it pretty well. I think baseball is kind of set up times for me naturally to do my stuff. It's like, all right, I'll go work out at 7 in the morning, and then I have class from 8 to 12. Okay, so you're doing homework. Well, I guess, and then practice. You have practice from 1:30 to 4, not even 4:30, probably 5:36, and you get back and it's like, all right, that's when you can do your homework. Your homework time is from 6 to 8, 6 to 9, around there, so it kind of lines out a schedule for you, baseball. And so I think, that kind of helped me manage my time pretty well. I understand that I have to get things done. I can't lay things off. My rule for doing homework and assignments was I would give myself a day. I would do the assignment a day before it was due. I'd finish it a day before, just so in case in case I didn't have time for one day. Oh, I still have an extra day ahead of me. And I'd try to keep that up for the entire semester, which I'm pretty sure I did. There was only a few times where I had to take that extra day to actually get the work done. But that was my biggest thing, was trying to manage my time, but also deal with these really hard classes. And so, yeah.
So going into time management, if you step into somebody's shoes that they're not playing baseball or they're not doing something that is consuming as much time, how would you manage that much time when you have an excess of time versus not enough?
Yeah, I'm actually about to get into that because it's funny. So we had a fall season from about August to October. Halloween was actually the day our fall season ended. So we had from November to December of just all you would do is just lift or run once a day, and that was it. And so that's the time when I kind of step into those shoes of, all right, I don't have much to do during the day, and but still I would take that time management with me from baseball. And when I did that, it's kind of crazy. We all talk about it, our teammates. It's like, it's crazy how much time there is in the day if you don't play a sport, if you have an excess of time, it's usually an incredible amount of time to get your things done. Like, I would still do my homework I would actually try to get it done earlier now that, I didn't have practice and stuff. So I'd get my homework done probably midday and just have all of my day to spend. And I'm like, what do I do with my time? Once baseball ends and you're still, like anything, if you have an excess of time, if you can just block out certain amounts of time to get things done, you'd be surprised at how much extra time there is in a day to do things.
Yeah, that's actually this is a byproduct of that. try to be more productive this fall than we were, in the past year. And we found ourselves sitting down, doing nothing, just kind of watching TV or playing video games. And we're just like, dang, we have all this time,
Yeah.
but we're not really doing anything with it. So, with that, we kind of wanted something to fill up some time. And this is kind of what came out of it, which is kind of interesting that you're talking about that. What do you think you would do if you just had an excess of time?
So, I mean, if I wasn't playing baseball, I guess, like that kind of thing, I'd focus way more on aerospace. I still put a good amount of focus into it. I still want to get good grades. You know, this table's wood. I haven't made a C yet in school. I'm not trying to. So I've still been able to manage my time really well. But if I didn't, I'd probably put even more focus into school, because school, without baseball, I mean, school's all I have. To if I'm in Atlanta, if I'm at Tech taking classes, there's no baseball. I'm just doing school. So it's like I would probably put way more time into school, but then also go to more of my hobbies. Like I'd probably try to learn guitar a bit more, get it, put it, I guess, take it a little more seriously now, because I mean I kind of just do it to have fun. I enjoy to play it, so I would probably take that more seriously. I would just get more into my hobbies, I would say, because I still have these hobbies that I can still go to away from baseball. And if baseball's not there, then those things are my main points of interest, to work on with the excess time that I have from not playing baseball or getting all my work done, stuff like that.
So you said you just started to play the guitar, right?
Yeah, about a year ago now. I was just home, and I didn't know what to do, and I always had there's always like a guitar sitting in my room, because my dad got it for my mom for their anniversary, and she just never played it. And so I was like, all right, well, I mean, it's been in my room forever, because that's just where they kept it. And I was like, all right, I had nothing to do, why not try, because I always thought, like, I might try to want to learn it when I'm 40 or something. 40, I see there's like older people that want to pick up the guitar and kind of just try it just because they want to. And it's, I don't want to get to that point where I'm like kind of old and just don't know anything about the guitar or anything like that. So I kind of just decided, like, why not try to learn now? So but potentially if I'm 40 and I keep doing it, I'll be able to play it pretty well.
Definitely. So you know, are you going to if you have enough time, are you going to try and make the intro jingle for Ahead of the Count podcast?
I could, it's a lot more of like, I don't have that music theory background, so I just try to watch YouTube videos and just kind of figure things out like that way, like by myself, which I've done pretty well so far. I think, I've learned a few songs and stuff like that, and try to learn about not just how to play the song, but also the things that are behind the song, like the chords, the progression, the melody, the rhythm, all working in technique, all that stuff, and that comes with learning songs and stuff. But I think my next step is more to learn about improvisation, stuff like that, working on making my own stuff rather than like just learning things that have been already been made for me. And I guess, trying to make that jingle it would be tough, but I think in the next few months, if I just keep at it, I could just learn that background and how to make things sound good together, and stuff like that. And I don't know, kind of what genre of what genre of a jingle would you guys like, man?
So I'm thinking, if people are listening to this podcast right now, hopefully we have some sort of like lo-fi elevator music playing.
Lo-fi
with
elevator.
it.
Okay.
But we want something a little bit upbeat to start it.
Yeah, of course.
So just anything that's like pretty welcoming to a lot of people, grab people's attention and stuff. But to anybody listening, if you do produce music and you want to compete with a baseball player on the jingle
and making some songs,
if you want to hear it, we're looking for a jingle. So just hit us up in the DMs or something like that. Definitely. Going back to what we were saying, Andrew has actually been playing guitar for how long? How long have you been playing for?
I've been playing on and off since I was in middle school, so probably like 5-6 years now. And Sammy is actually the one that got me into it, Fawnville.
Really?
Yeah,
Cool.
because it's actually very similar to your story. For Christmas, my mom got my brother this big acoustic guitar. He never played it, so um, after it was just sitting around, Sammy was actually pretty good at guitar, and he just kind of gave me some lessons to start off, and then I went on YouTube, learned chords, just songs that I liked. I would definitely like to be better. I don't consider myself, that good at guitar. I can play, some stuff. Do you play like electric or acoustic?
Yeah, I play the electric because I play lefty too. It's kind of tough.
Yeah.
Like I just always felt that was more comfortable for me playing with my right hand fretting, which is kind of tough because I'm a pitcher too. So I have like these calluses on my hands.
Yeah, you get pretty nasty calluses on your tips.
The acoustic's a lot tougher to play because it's like you have to press down a lot harder and everything, and it's more you can't get as much into it.
Yeah, so I actually have an electric guitar as well. But I forgot who I was talking to this about, but they were like, if you play the acoustic guitar and then go to electric, it's pretty much like going from like hard mode to like easy mode.
Yeah, I could honestly see that.
Like if you practice on acoustic, which it kind of is annoying, but I was like, I never thought of it that way. But.
I mean, I have an acoustic at home as well. Like it was my dad's, and I flipped the strings over so I could play it. And so, like, at first that's all I had. So I was like these first few weeks being home, so I would just play the acoustic and just kind of strum with it. Because I mean, I like to play more of like, I don't know, like bluesy rock stuff, just like with the electric. Cause it's much easier to fret down, much easier to put chords down. But yeah, with the acoustic, it's a lot tougher to, like, cause you have to press them down a lot harder, and it puts more stress on your fingers and stuff, and it kind of. Like you'll feel your fingers kind of hurting after playing for a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the guitar's sick.
It is. It's a fun thing to do. It's like a good hobby to have because it's like it's frustrating. It's very frustrating, but in the end, it's when you can actually make something that sounds good to you that you enjoy to play. It's like it's a pretty rewarding feeling.
It's definitely like. It clears your mind too, and kind of just like relieves stress when you just go in there and you're just playing,
Yeah, you're not
mindlessly.
Thinking, you're not thinking about anything. You're just thinking about playing. Like you're letting your mind go. You just do whatever you want, which is fun.
Yeah, we were talking about this too yesterday, but you definitely do know that you're doing something that you enjoy, and you're doing something that you love to do when you're not keeping track of time, and doing different hobbies and trying different things out. I definitely think that plays a big role into just kind of finding out who you are as a person, and to find those hobbies that you're not keeping track of time. You're just kind of going and doing it. That's definitely the right things to be doing.
Yeah. When you lose track of time, that's when you you really like it. Is when you're not thinking about, all right, I'm gonna. If for example, if you take guitar, all right, I'm gonna play guitar today for 30 minutes, and if you're somehow looking at the clock and you're like, all right, is it 30 minutes yet? You're not like you don't like that. You don't enjoy that. Like, I just go and I just sit down and I just play as much as I want. Whenever I'm done with it, I'll stop and I'll go do something else. It's like, as long as you want to do it, you do it. You're not forced to. I've always seen like videos and stuff for practicing guitar and trying to get better. It's like, oh, you need to practice for at least 30 minutes a day. If I don't even want to do that, I don't have to. Because it's compared to baseball, it's a hobby. It's necessarily a passion. I do enjoy to play it a lot, but it's not as much of a I guess importance. It's something that I enjoy. I don't need to do it. I want to do it, and I'll only do as much as I want to, like that.
Mm-hmm. So for somebody that is looking to find their passion, they don't really know what direction they want to go. What kind of advice do you have coming from somebody that has found their passion? You obviously have an idea of who you are as a person and things like that. What would you say to them?
I don't think you need to go actively search for things. I think things will naturally come to you as passions. I don't, in terms of baseball, I couldn't tell you when I was like, all right, I need to play baseball. I need to do this. It's like I started as a kid and I wanted to do it. I mean, I remember my mom was like she always like I played all the sports, like everyone did growing up. And my mom always said like I was into baseball the most, and so I don't necessarily remember that now being however long ago that was. Maybe started at like 5 or 6 years old. I don't remember thinking, oh, I enjoy baseball the most. I don't think like, oh, this is my passion. I'll play college baseball.
Yeah.
It kind of just comes and it grows. It doesn't start out immediately as a burning passion, but I think you will naturally draw yourself towards things that you can see yourself possibly having a future in, or just things that you enjoy, and you keep doing these things that you enjoy, and then eventually that passion it'll grow onto you. You know, I don't think when I started playing guitar, I was like, oh, I'm gonna stick with this forever. I'm gonna do all this. I'm just like, this looks fun. I'm gonna try it out and see if I like it. Like I kind of gravitated towards playing the guitar and stuff like that, or playing baseball, or I just kind of gravitated towards these things that I enjoy, which I think everyone needs to. I feel like people need to have hobbies and passions and stuff like that, because that's what kind of makes us worthwhile around. Like when you're here on Earth, you do what you want. You do what you want to do. You don't let anyone force you into anything. You want to have a passion. You want to have things that you like to do that make your time here worthwhile.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Kind of going off that, you look at some people, they have all the money in the world, but they're not happy. And that's because, maybe they're good at something. They don't necessarily enjoy doing it. But then, some other people, they're perfectly fine with being in some like shack somewhere, like,
And they're happy.
and they're happy because
Yeah.
that's what they want to do. There's no monetary value to finding your dream or anything like that.
Not at all. I don't think you can. I don't think you can necessarily buy a passion. I mean, you can buy things that can help your passion, like you could buy a guitar like that, or you could buy baseball equipment or something like that, or just anything. I mean, you can buy things that help your passion, but in the end, like just having money is nothing, because what are you holding that money for? Like, what are you gonna spend it on? Not necessarily trying to blow all your money, but the point, like, having money is just, it's, if you just have it, it means nothing. You're not using it. You're not trying to pursue anything with the money that you have, and that's why they're not happy.
Definitely. And, kind of going off that, I think a lot of people our age can learn from this lesson, can take a lot of different, just different perspectives from it, because so many people kind of get confused with, what they want to do and how much money, not confused, but they really think that like what's going to drive them is the money. And, to going off your point, it's hard for me to really grasp the fact that you're going to be happy with X amount of dollars in your bank account.
Yeah.
But you're not doing what you love. You just know you're going to make money doing it. And
Yeah, like, it's not like, if your passion's making money, then somehow, then do whatever you want to make that money somehow. But like, I don't think most people think like that. I don't think most people just want to only get money. I think there's something under that. There's some desire under that. And once they get that money, and they're like, all right, now what?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you do? I think people have to have like active things, not just the idea of collecting loads of money. Like, if you work a terrible job and you're making lots of money, you're definitely not going to be happy. I mean, you're gonna have some money. You can maybe spend that on something that you do enjoy doing, but in the end, you're not going to be happy. I think doing what you love is like the most important thing. I mean, it's very, very cliche to say, but like, I truly think it's true. I think that if you need to do whatever you want to do. You need to have whatever passion that you have, and just you stick with it. You don't drop it because it's not the, I guess, best move in your life to make. But if it makes you the happiest, then I think that's the most important thing.
yeah, and just kind of looking at your whole story and where you are, and where you could potentially go pretty soon. That kind of does have it gives your word some validity behind it, because knowing you for as long as I have, I don't think that and you can speak on this just to, make sure, but I don't see that you've really thought about, the money side of the baseball at all. Like, you just enjoy it. You just
Yeah,
enjoy
I
playing
do.
baseball.
Yeah, I do a lot. I mean, I've been playing it since I was a kid, and it's just like baseball has opened so many doors for me, and like I don't necessarily want to say I'm drawn just to only that perspective, but it's a big part of baseball. Just like thinking about the places where I've been just because of baseball. Like there's loads of places that I would have never even been close to. I mean, even for example, summer ball. I played in Macon, Georgia. I was in Macon, Georgia for 2 months. Summer after my freshman year, so 2019 summer, and what they would do is they would bus us all around. It was the scheduling was crazy because it was a for-profit league, and so they're trying to make as much money as they can. So the way they do that is they make everything for the players basically as cheap as they can. So what we would do is we would bus every game's at 7 o'clock at night, and it doesn't matter where you're at. So our average drive was about like 4 hours, and we would bus. So we get on the bus at 2, and no, not even 2, probably 1, and we'd go up to this like we would go up to this some random town, in North Carolina or South Carolina or somewhere in Georgia, somewhere all like I for my summer we just went all around just busing, and we'd play a game and we'd drive right back. So we'd get out at game would start at 7, we get out at 10:30. They give us some pizza, and we'd bus back, and I'd get home at like 3 in the morning, and I loved it. Like even though it was a pretty tough experience on just like your body, just like never being able to stay a night or just like get some good sleep. But I mean it was still a great time. I would do it again. I think just the experience of just being able to go place and just see just see different types of people everywhere. Like I remember on 4th of July, like we went to this place in North Carolina called Gastonia, and and we went all the way there for the game to get rained out in 2 innings. And it was just like we drove 4 hours up there and just got rained out, and it's like this is how I'm spending my 4th of July. But I didn't care. I loved it, and like just seeing all these. It was this one small town. They just like all went on the field and just like. I think they just played they slid in the tarp. It was just like it was just fun to watch. Like everyone's just enjoying their time and stuff, and just seeing like those small towns and just like how people live that you'd never ever meet if it wasn't for for me. I mean, I would never have been in that city. I don't know if I'll be there again if it wasn't for baseball. I mean, it's not necessarily like a very interesting or cool place to be, but it's definitely it's a place where you can just like look at the world from a different view. It's a whole different world out there. It's a different place, different people, different lifestyle, and it's just like I would never have seen those things without baseball. And so it's just a cool thing to think about how many places I've been and will go because of the sport I play.
Yeah, going off that, I mean, hopefully the people listening aren't all 100% just baseball people. If it is, that's fine, and we welcome that. But um, what are the biggest life lessons you've kind of learned from doing those things and having those experiences where you're going somewhere and you're completely out of your comfort zone. You're almost vulnerable in a sense just because you were so far away from what you know. What kind of things have you learned doing that?
I mean, when you're out of your comfort zone, I mean, the most important thing, even though you're out of your comfort zone, is stay within yourself. It seems kind of backwards, but the most important thing when you're out of there is just out of your comfort zone is just remember where you came from. You don't want to do anything extra. You don't want to do too much. You don't want to do something you wouldn't normally do just because you're out of your comfort zone. Like for pitching, for example, if I'm starting and I'm like freaking out because of a start or something like that, I don't want to do anything extra. I still want to maintain the things I've done, I've practiced, that I've tried to perfect over my years of playing. And I mean, just taking that to life, like you never, like in your passion or in your job or anything, like if you're ever out of your comfort zone, just you need to look back to your past experiences and take those as some of your own like internal wisdom, so that you can apply to this situation. And once you apply it and you get out of the situation, your comfort zone expands, and you're now able to if you come back to the situation again, you're back in your comfort zone because you've ran through this once. You can do it again. Like taking that maybe for an example in baseball, like so my freshman year, I had like issues with like my mental game. Like I would freak out before college start because I'm like, I wasn't able to take control of the whole picture. Like I wasn't able to like just like I would just freak out. I wasn't ready for the situation, for the bigger stage that I was just kind of thrown into. It seemed, and so it was just like I would try to do I would try to do too much. I would try to freak out. I would mess up. I wouldn't perform well, and so. But like the way I worked on that was I would work on meditation and keeping a quiet mind when I pitched. Because looking back to my high school days where I had a pretty successful career, I don't remember a single time stressing out, in playoffs or anything. Like I don't remember freaking out before an elimination game where it was my last chance to play high school baseball. I don't remember that at all. I don't remember freaking out in the slightest. But I get to my first college game where I have an entire like potential 4 years ahead of me, and I'm freaking out. It's like my first day. I need to take it easy. I need to look back and look at my past experiences and just kind of be like, hey, like how to pitch. You know how to do this. Like this is the exact same setup. You're letting the situation get to the best of you. And so I kind of grasped that mid-season, and I was able to just go back to what I've been doing in high school and just have a quiet mind and just do what I can. My biggest test, I would say, was probably it was probably just after mid-season. We played against Georgia at SunTrust Park, which is now Truist Park. It's the Brave Stadium, and it's like our big like rivalry game. And so we had played 2 games before, and it was we won one and we lost one. So this was like the rubber match. This was going to decide, all right, who won the series this year. And it's a big rivalry, Georgia Tech and Georgia, for us at least. I don't know about Georgia, but for our history school, it was a pretty big thing. And I had to start this game at SunTrust Park. It was on I think it was like a Tuesday, and there were 19,000 people in the stands, and I'm like freaking out because I'm about to pitch at a major league park in front of 19,000 people against one of the best teams in the nation. As a freshman, I'm just like, that's way out of the comfort zone. Like imagine putting yourself in those shoes. It's just like the crowd's cheering. You can't, like, you just try to have that tunnel vision on the catcher because you don't want to look around. I didn't want to look around at all. I didn't want to have, that first inning just go bad and get pulled in front of all those people and just like, fail myself. But I didn't think about that. I'm trying to think, just have a quiet mind and just do what you've been doing your entire life. And that's what I did. And that was truly like the biggest step I made in my baseball career in terms of like mentality and just like being okay with being out of your comfort zone. Because that was a freaky situation. High school, you had 50 people maybe at most in the stands. Now you have 19,000. And it's like, what do you do? And you just have to it's the same. You're still throwing the ball across the plate. You're still trying to get however many outs you need. You're trying to help your team in any way, either situation. And so, like, looking at that now, it's just like it was a crazy experience, but it definitely taught me some lessons. It taught me that even though you're out of your comfort zone, don't do anything extra. You need to stay within yourself. And then once you're out of there, once you're past that moment, it's part of your comfort zone. I feel like I could do that again and be fine. It's just something that you gain, and now it's just with you forever. And that also applies to anything in your life. That's just one example from baseball. But once you are past this hard event or this situation that you're in, this uncomfortable situation, that new situation becomes your comfort zone, and you gain the wisdom from that. You understand what happened there and like what what do I need to say? Like,
Just to kind of like, interject. It's an interesting topic just because a lot of, at least from my experience, I don't think I've ever really understood what a comfort zone was until I started doing things that made me feel uncomfortable. And I'm not saying like bad things. I'm just saying, things
anything.
just
in
taking
life.
risks.
Yeah.
And going off what you're saying with comfort zones, you don't even know what you're comfortable with or uncomfortable with until you kind of push those limits.
Yeah, you don't know how comfortable you are until you feel out of place. Until you feel like, all right, now I'm uncomfortable. Because you'll feel fine up until that point, and then it flicks, and then you're uncomfortable, and it's like, what do you do? But you just need to focus and just stay where you were. Like, remember where you work. Remember where you came from. Remember everything that you've learned, everything that you've applied to what you've been doing, and just stick with it. Nothing extra. And once you're out of that, it's the same thing. It becomes part of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Just to kind of wrap this up, and I think that this is the question that we're probably going to ask every single one of the guests that we have on. But going into the name of our podcast, what does being ahead of the count mean to you?
Being ahead of the count.
Now, that is a pitching reference.
Oh, I know. Being ahead of the count, it can be anything, in terms of homework. It can be applied in different ways. Homework, get everything done one day ahead. That's a rule I try to live by. That's being ahead of the count. There's many ways to be ahead of the count. Baseball, literally, you want to get ahead of the count. You want to be one step ahead of any competition that you have. Maybe in terms of a job, you want to be one step more prepared than the next best guy. You always want to be. You want to have the advantage in everyone, because in the end, the most successful people are the ones that prepare themselves better than the next. And in terms of like any billionaires, those guys we're talking about, the ones that may not be happy with their money, but they were one step ahead of everyone. You could take Steve Jobs and the iPhone. He knew that people needed an iPhone before an iPhone existed. He was one step ahead of everyone already. Like, no one had thought of that idea before him, and now it's a part of our lives every day. Everyone looks at their phone every day, and how we know? Like, we had no clue that we needed it, but we did. And he was one step ahead of everyone and knew that. He was ahead of the count.
Cort, never change. You're a good guy.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
For sure, man.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next time. And,
Enjoy it.
yeah, enjoy. I hope you enjoyed it too.
Thank you, Cort.
Stay ahead of the count.
Yes, sir.